Yeah, I've really found, and still find with a lot of speakers and TEDx speakers, is that they are trying to fit themselves in a box to be liked and to be seen as professional and the TEDx speaker. And I really believe that our style speaks before we do, especially in this day and age where it's just so crowded online and we don't know whether there are filters, whether it's AI. Like, people are really craving genuine connection and authenticity. And so I love taking people on a journey, and I'm finding it similar to the TEDx journey, where it's not about the clothing, it's about who you're becoming, who you're choosing to step into. I unfortunately listened to outside voices very early on in my business in fashion, and I just sort of took on board what they were saying around it would be a tough journey and probably wouldn't pay well, and it's a cutthroat industry. That got me on the path of a safer, more corporate career. I was living in Melbourne at the time when I came back to this job that I was in, which was like events and partnerships. I remember coming into the office and I was dressed in colour and, like big earrings and quite out there outfits, because prior to that I was wearing quite corporate dark colours in, Melbourne winter. And everyone in the office was like, "Who are you? Like, what's happened?" And I said, "Well, I know, I forgot. This is actually who I am." Most people know what they want, but I find that people get stuck in trying to work out the whole plan, and so they don't actually take action. And so what I support people with is trusting themselves again, that they can take that next step. Those dreams that we have, those visions, they're there because they are a possibility in another reality. We just haven't become that person that lives that out yet.
Welcome back to Beyond the Keynote. You'll be so happy that you've tuned in today, because I'm talking to a fellow Aussie, Carly Faragher, who is an intuitive brand stylist, an award-winning fashion designer, and TEDx speaker. Carly, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Carmen.
My absolute pleasure. I'm so excited to dive into your story and share it with our audience. I know you've got so many incredible things to talk to us about today. And we were talking before the show, and I know you know the format that I always like to ask when you were a little girl and adults said, "Carly, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Do you remember what they used to ask you?
Yes, I do remember that question, and I remember just having so much curiosity and childlike wonder with the world back then. And I was very creative. So I knew that I wanted to be, a performer or an artist or something where I could share with others my creative expressions. So it was, I think you're so on the point here with our childhood. Like, it gives us clues of who we really are and what we're meant to be doing in the world. And I've definitely had a journey over the last 4 decades sort of coming back to that truth. But the younger childhood memories were definitely with my gran and my mum and my aunties all making clothes and dressing the cousins up. So I had a lot of fond memories around that. But yeah, it was just generally quite a creative family. Like, we would make gifts for each other. And as I grew older, even when I was babysitting, we would always be doing craft sessions. And, I was learning how to sew from a young age. And as I got into high school, I was making some of my own outfits. And I definitely remember my semi-formal. There was 365 girls in our grade, and there was about 15 of us who had the same dress on. And I remember thinking, I'm going to make my own formal dress. I don't want this to happen again. And yeah, I actually went on to study fashion design. I was the only girl in my grade to do that. And I really came into my own then. But I've definitely gone off the creative path and off the fashion path throughout the years. But it is pretty cool to have my inner child very happy right now, because I'm focusing on what I really love.
Amazing. And it is interesting, isn't it, that as a child you can love something so much and you can be immersed in it, and then sometimes you get sent in a different direction, and uh, for whatever reason it is, maybe it's because you think that's what a grown up is supposed to do when they go out and earn money, and sometimes it can steer you all the way back again in your life's journey to where you started. So I'm interested to know, you said that obviously there was a lot there in terms of fashion design and sewing, and I love that it was something you did with your mum and your aunties. You also said that you were a performer from a really young age, and those that tune in all the time know my story and know that I also was a performer but very shy. Were you an extrovert? Did you always just love getting up and performing in front of people, or were you shy and doing that at the same time?
Yeah, I definitely had some shyness when I was young. Primary school, with close girlfriends, and I was doing gymnastics and dancing, and so we would put on performances and do it in front of the whole school. And so in sisterhood, I felt really comfortable. But yeah, what really knocked my confidence at a young age, I was actually diagnosed with hyperhidrosis when I was 11. So it's a condition which is quite common, I've found out, but it's excessive sweating of the hands and feet and other body areas. But what it meant for me at that young age was gymnastics wasn't safe because people were laughing at me, doing piano and pursuing that with sweat on the keys. That was really daunting and didn't feel safe. And so as I was growing older and getting into dating and obviously presenting speeches and things at school, it was a big concern for me. And so I really started to shut down my expression, who I was, and also having closeness with others. So that did affect me quite a bit for many, many years. And I have obviously done a lot of inner work to overcome that in later years in life. And I think, when it comes to, this performer within me, it was it was always from a place of fun and of sharing what wanted to be expressed. And because I was so used to keeping myself safe in these certain situations, it was interesting the experiences that I stumbled across, and the teachers that guided me along the way to help me come back to myself and be really comfortable in my skin and be able to share this story with others. So one of my teachers the last sort of several years has been in the intuitive space, which has really helped me connect to my inner voice and not be so concerned with the outside voices that might be influencing me. And another teacher in the sort of last few years since I've been living in Bali was my Tantra teacher, who's really supported me on this deep spiritual path and really creating safety within my nervous system and a deep love and connection with my body so that I can be really opening myself up as a channel for whatever wants to be created and whatever wants to be expressed. So it's it's been a very interesting journey, and a lot of people are quite surprised when they hear that I've had a TEDx speaker coaching business for 7 years, yet that's been my biggest fear, and I never had the desire to have a TEDx talk. But my intuition knew that I was going to have one in order to overcome these fears and be of my highest service. So that's been a big part of my journey.
Yes, I can imagine that you supported so many clients through what most people would find a very challenging, daunting experience. Even though there's a lot of people that want to do it, it still can be very scary when you actually go and do it. And you were their mentor to then discover that you would feel the same way yourself if you went through the process. I'm sure was a surprise for them.
Yeah.
I also think, isn't it? It's just, I mean, so challenging and awful in those school years when you're considered different. I'm doing different in italics for anyone that's just listening and not watching on video. and what we do to ourselves in those moments, and how we can retreat and not be our fullest self because of how we think everyone else is going to react to that. So yeah, I mean, I'm really sorry that you had to go through that. It's so challenging, and I mean, I have children now. One's in grade 6, one's going through year 9 in high school, and I see the same thing. I don't think it matters who you are or what thing that you've got about yourself. There's always something, isn't there,
Yeah.
that you think is not cool enough or not okay to tell others about, that you need to hide about yourself, which is a shame.
Yeah.
So tell us about fashion design though, because I know so from school, did you go and study fashion design? Is that what you were saying?
I did, yeah. So 365 girls in the grade. I was the only one who went on to do fashion. And I just felt so free and liberated and myself. And I gave it everything I had. Like, I loved it. I entered all the competitions all around Australia. I started my business pretty early on. And, back then there wasn't really much social media. I mean, for PR and promoting yourself, I was getting in local newspapers and on the TV and yeah, doing the old school stuff. But it was a lot of fun. I'd learnt from a young age that if I entered colouring in competitions, I could win awards and I could win prizes. And so I had this drive within me to share my gifts with the world and to keep creating. So it was a really beautiful few years. And we learnt everything from creating and building a business down to pattern making, grading, sewing. Like, it was very hands on. Um, but I unfortunately listened to outside voices about 22 years of age. So I was very early on in my business in fashion, and yeah, I just sort of took on board what they were saying around it would be a tough journey and probably wouldn't pay well, and it's a cutthroat industry and things like that. And that got me on the path of a safer, more corporate career. Um, but of course, and those that watch my TEDx talk, they'll learn more about my journey from burnout to Burning Man and from suppressed to expressed. But it really did put me in management at a very young age, and I learnt what not to do, and that was, yeah, working in a toxic, male dominated environment, really trying to prove myself, trying to earn the respect and always doing more and overworking, and that led me to burnout, which of course was the blessing because that got me back on my true path and connected back to myself and my intuition.
Mm. So how long were you in a corporate role for?
Yeah, so I was in this particular organization for about 7 years. I started off as the events and marketing assistant, and 6 weeks later, my manager quit and they didn't replace her. So I remember going home to my dad, and I was 22 years old, and I was like, what do I do? And I was learning the lesson of how to ask for a pay rise and how to start negotiating with the CEO. It was pretty wild. But they didn't replace the manager. I stepped into that role, but I also continued to hold the assistant role, and I immediately started reporting to the CEO and the board. And so, yeah, I learnt to really work hard, and I sort of grew my team to 5, and I was looking after 6 boards, and yeah, grew a huge events calendar over the years. But there was always more to do on the list. Nothing was ever complete or good enough. And that's because that was driven from my biggest limiting belief of not being good enough and always seeking that outside validation and learning from those around me that um, yeah, weren't what I needed to learn at the time. So yeah, it was an amazing experience. I'm so grateful for all of the lessons, and um, I created a lot, and I learnt a lot. But it was when I burnt out, it was quite a confusing time. I ended up getting after about 6 months of sort of letting things go and just having time and space to myself, I ended up getting a one-way ticket to Colombia, and I didn't come back to Australia for about 2 years. I'd sort of reached 30 years of age, and it was a couple of weeks after my birthday that I had that burnout. And one day at work, I just couldn't do it anymore. Everything was like time stopped, and I just made that decision. So I really needed that time away from what was my current reality and time to really be open to receiving what life wanted to show me. I really took on a lot of responsibilities when I was in the work environment, in the family life, and I didn't know that I could get support from the universe, from God, from Source. And so I found myself doing a 10-day silent retreat. I ended up doing, yoga training. I lived in an off-grid treehouse for 4 months in Guatemala. I had all these sorts of experiences that just kept connecting me back to myself and my true nature. And then when I came back to Australia, I knew that I really wanted to, yeah, be in the health and wellness and personal development space and help create spaces for people to learn about these different ways of living and doing business. And that's how I ended up in the TEDx space and the head of partnerships for a leading TEDx organization in Australia, and then kind of flows on from there.
Wow. And I'm sure there's so many people listening that would love to hear all about the TEDx era
Yeah.
of your life. So we'll dive into that in a
Mm.
minute. Now, I have never done a silent retreat. You said 10-day
Mhm.
silent retreat. I think I'm a bit of an introvert, but I do like conversation. I do. Surprise, surprise. I have a podcast, but I love chatting to people. I like listening to them. I like understanding their stories. 10 days. So when you say 10 days of silence,
Yeah.
like you're literally not allowed to like talk out loud for 10 days?
Yeah. So
Tell me about it. I'm intrigued.
it was so interesting because, yeah, I found myself, thinking, oh, I'm going to go and do a bit of yoga and just nice and easy. And then I end up, doing 30 days of yoga training and then this silent retreat. And I'd never really meditated before then. So you had the option of signing up for 3 days, and then if you wanted to, you could extend, because it's the first 3 days are the hardest, and then it's like you get into the flow, and then it's a lot easier. But yeah, not only could you not speak, but obviously all technology is off. There was no looking at other people or making any sort of eye contact or communication with others. There was no looking in the mirror, so you couldn't even look at yourself. And so, what happens when you switch off a sense, like speaking, and also looking at others, it really dials in on your other senses so that you're really open and in tune. Like I remember, on meal breaks, sitting in front of flowers and just being so aware of the intricacies and how vibrant the colors were and the smells, and so all of the other senses get dialed up when you turn off the
Mm,
others, like speak.
that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So you've never appreciated a flower more than in that moment, I'm guessing.
Exactly, I can't look at them the same.
That's incredible. What an amazing experience. And then so you traveled a fair bit, it sounds like, for was that for a few years before you came back to Australia and started in the TEDx coaching space?
Yes, I didn't know how long I was going to be away for. I did a lot of South America. I ended up back in London again. I had lived in London about 10 years earlier, and yeah, I was away almost 2 years, and I was mostly not working. I was really, because prior to that trip, I yeah, I was turning 30. I was about to buy the dream home. I was with a partner that, we were creating a future together with. I, things on the outside looked really good. And I was investing in my future. But yeah, there was other plans for the future. So I really needed to give myself that time and space to see where I needed to be guided to. And as I met people along the way and I learnt about new things along the way, um, I just went with that. And I definitely one of the highlights of the trip and one of the connections I made was someone who told me about Burning Man. And when I finally got to Burning Man, that completely changed my life. And that's been a huge inspiration for me in my business and the work I do.
Okay, so tell us about what happens at Burning Man. There might be some people listening that have even done it before and others that have never heard of it. So tell us about Burning Man, why you would go and what happens when you're there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm very experience driven, and it's kind of like when people do retreats and they're so lit up when they're talking about it, but they can't quite put words to it. I mean, I will attempt, but it it's not called a festival, it's called a temporary city because it's governed by these 10 principles that really allow people to come together and co-create, bringing their gifts, like physical gifts, but also, their gifts of how they want to contribute to the city. And so there's generally about 75,000 people that gather each year. It's a 10-day experience. People come and set up before the 10 days and pack down after the 10 days. But there's generally about 1,200 camps, themed camps, about 800 interactive art installations. And then there's lots of bicycles everyone's getting around in, and also what they call art cars, which are these slow moving cars that have been decorated in all different ways, and they can carry up to 100 people, or they could just carry a couple of people. So it really is a giant adult playground. Absolutely anything is available, any kind of food, drink, experience, workshop. It's happening 24/7. The daytime is complete contrast to the evening, and they really take the real world and spin it upside down. They bring humor into it, and I mean, even to the point where you can choose who you want to be there because you don't go by your name. You can meet the most incredible people and not know where they're from, what they do, or what their real name is, and then later find out that they have 6 businesses and they're, this incredible entrepreneur. So it's a place where people get to not only shed layers and have experiences they haven't had before, but they get to really meet parts of themselves and express new parts of themselves. And I love that because, the first year I went actually with a mentor from Canada. It was a hard challenge to get someone to come all the way from Australia with me because it's quite a bit to organise. And no one was quite as passionate and eager as I, but I had met someone along my travels, and I flew into Canada, and we drove for a few days in his RV, and yeah, it was quite I'm going to say like a personal development type experience for us the first year. And I remember all of the costumes, all of the color, or like, I mean, everywhere from people wearing nothing through to just outrageous costumes. And when I was living in Melbourne at the time, and when I came back to Australia, and I came back to this job that I was in, which was like a events and partnerships role, I remember going into the office and I was dressed in color and, like big earrings and quite out there outfits, because prior to that I was wearing quite corporate dark colors in, Melbourne winter. And everyone in the office was like, "Who are you? Like, what's happened?" And I said, "Well, I know, I forgot. This is actually who I am." But you know what? My sales results, not only did the connections within the office and the team just get so much closer and more fun, but then my clients and the sponsors for the events and just the overall results that I was getting was huge because people could feel me. They could connect with me so much easier, and I was just being myself and not so trying to fit into who I thought I needed to be. So each year I go back to Burning Man. I'm a slightly different version of myself, and I have different experiences magnetize in different people. And yeah, it's just so unexpected what happens there. It really is a timeless portal, and the mystery and magic that unfolds. Yeah, some of the stories you just can't even believe it when you talk about it. So yeah,
It sounds amazing. And I love that when you came back to the office, your results just took off because you were being true to yourself and wearing what uh, the reflection of who you are, basically. So it was
yeah.
expressing who you are, and then for you were more magnetic, and
Mm-hmm.
people wanted to do business with you. How incredible is that?
Yeah.
And I know that's what you help other people do now too. But before we get to that, because I really want to talk about that in detail. And I know that's what you're focusing on now. Let's just touch on the TEDx coaching business and then into your TEDx talk, your own TEDx talk. But I know for many years you did help others take the TEDx stage and promote their TEDx talk so that it was a really powerful marketing asset for them. Tell us a little bit about that and what you learned there and what you enjoyed about that part of your life.
Yeah. So, yeah, pre-COVID, I was the head of partnerships for a TEDx organization, and that was a team of about 50 of us. So it was a pretty remarkable team putting on those events. But of course, COVID happened and in-person events stopped. So I was made redundant with that. And because I'm a connector and a collaborator, and I also needed to shift my events that I was running at the time, I started running these online speed connection events between speakers and podcasters and online event hosts. But people were still coming to me asking for TEDx advice. Where could they get their TEDx talk, and is this TEDx talk idea, good enough? And so I was helping people on the side and just connecting them to TEDx organizers all around the world. And I started to realize, oh, there's something here. Like, there are TEDx speaker coaches out there that aren't landing talks for them. And there was just a lot of missing pieces. So I just started to keep adding things to what I was offering. And before I knew it, I had this full, learn, land, and leverage a TEDx talk methodology. And I had a 100% success rate of landing TEDx talks for people. And I really specialized. Yeah, and I really specialized in these pre-recorded TEDx talks because different licenses came out and different TEDx talk opportunities came out for people because these in-person events weren't happening. And so the studio license came out where people could record their TEDx talk in a studio or in an event space. So I focused on that area, and that really meant that people could get their TEDx talk out there in the world a lot sooner. They could strategically share it when it supported them in their business. They could record it in their own time and have the quality control over it. So yeah, that's what I've been doing the last sort of 6 years. But there was always that part of me that felt incongruent because I didn't actually want to be speaking myself. I didn't really want a TEDx talk myself. There was just things there that, like, my little girl inside wanted to be playing and dressing up. And all of these TEDx speakers, I kept seeing the missing piece where their message was amazing, but then their online presence and their, how they were showing up on stages and what they were wearing just wasn't an energetic match.
So then you decided that you needed to do your own TEDx talk finally. It sounds like from a very young age you were already destined to do it. Tell us about how you decided to do your own and tell us about your TEDx journey.
Yeah, it was, I think my intuition knew all along, and I was always curious, but the amount of fear that I had that was running the show, I just, yeah, it wasn't until very early one Sunday morning when I was living in Bali that I woke up and it was just right there. I had to get my phone out and record what the topic was about. And yeah, of course, with my intuitive processes, I knew that I just needed to follow the next obvious step and submit it. And yeah, within a few hours, the organizer responded and said, "Yep, let's do it." So I knew there was a far bigger plan at play to support me overcome my biggest fear of being visible, finally being safe to be seen in my fullest expression, and I knew that it was going to help others as well. So it definitely took me on a journey, and I always said to TEDx clients that it's never actually about the TEDx talk. It's about who we become in order to step into being the TEDx speaker. And the person I am now today talking to you, I mean, yeah, it's so completely different because you really do need to face all parts of you when you're put in the spotlight. And it's a really good training ground to get to know ourselves better and to really connect deeply with why we're here, what we stand for, and the TEDx journey that I support people on. It is really about that message that they want to leave with the world, their legacy piece. So,
So important. And how wonderful that you finally did your own TEDx talk. Now, I know that our audience can go and look it up and watch it. Is there anything that you want to give away about what's in the talk, or should we leave it all as a surprise?
well, let's just say I designed my whole outfit. I do an outfit reveal on the
Amazing.
stage, and it's just not like any other TEDx talk because I needed to make it
Mm.
like me. And I didn't have a background in speaking, even though I was coaching speakers. I had a background in creating and dancing and doing meditations and guiding people on immersive experiences. So that's what I had a lot of fun with my TEDx talk.
Wow, I cannot wait to watch it. I haven't seen it yet myself. I've heard a bit about it, obviously, but cannot wait to watch it. And congratulations on doing the TEDx talk. So many people want to do TEDx talks that haven't yet. So I believe they can still get in touch if they're looking for someone to help them with that. And you'll be able to point them in the right direction. But tell us now, what are you focused on now? Because you've come all the way back to your roots, to fashion design, I believe, and coaching. So tell us about how you're supporting. Is it women specifically that you're supporting?
Yeah, I do mostly support women, but there are, interestingly, a lot of men who also want the support as well. But yeah, I really found and still find with a lot of speakers and TEDx speakers is that they are trying to fit themselves in a box to be liked and to be seen as professional and the TEDx speaker. And I really believe that our style speaks before we do, especially in this day and age where it's just so crowded online and we don't know whether there are filters, whether it's AI. Like people are really craving genuine connection and, authenticity. And so I love taking people on a journey, and I'm finding it similar to the TEDx journey where it's not about the clothing, it's about who you're becoming, who you're choosing to step into, and really using your wardrobe as that altar for honoring yourself, adorning yourself, and um, being really clear on who you are. Because, of course, everything's energy, and the colors influence how we feel and how others feel, the fabrics we put on our skin. Like there's just so many nuances. And I find that so many people are, it's not that they don't have the clothes, like they often have too many clothes and they don't know what to wear. It's just that they haven't been taught what looks good on them, what are the colors that suit them, how can they turn, this item of clothing into several outfits. Like we've lost that play along the way, and people just need some simple systems that actually help them save time, energy, and money, because that's what everyone needs these days. And yeah, I'm really taking that stress out of the bedroom, out of the wardrobe for people, and helping them create a memorable and magnetic brand, starting with their signature style.
And do you find that when you're starting to work with someone that they actually know what their signature style is, or is that something you help them discover?
Yeah, I help them discover. I
Uh-huh.
call it style codes so that people can forget about the
Okay.
dress code. But it's really, yeah, it's really about identifying what your essence words are, that like these emotive words that you deeply connect with that are going to help you embody the person that you truly are. So we do intuitive processes that connect you to your inner child that once dreamed big and wanted to play and dress up. And then we also connect to the higher self, the highest timeline, you and your genius. And we make sure both of those are on board so we can see how you naturally want to like fully express yourself, especially through the clothing. And from there we work out the colors and the styles for your body type and things like that. But um, one of the fun parts is finding out people's archetypes, and this can be just a version of yourself in a part of your life, whether it's in business or in an area of your life that has a particular expression. So one of mine is called the Bedazzle Queen. And
I love that.
yeah, this
Tell us about the Bedazzle Queen.
so I was sort of keeping her under wraps for quite a few years. Like my friends knew about her, and she's just this sparkly version of me that just actually really wants to shine bright, but she just never fully felt safe to. So it would just be at certain events or festivals, I'd wear, sparkly things like sequins and diamante things. But I started to get a bit of this reputation of the Bedazzle Queen. But I realized that I didn't want her to come out like fully on social media because I thought, well, people won't take me seriously. I had these stories going on that, um, yeah, that it was vain, trying to look beautiful and all these sorts of things. And so, for many years, I didn't really share her because I didn't think it was serious enough. But of course, when we share those parts of us, when I started to share my stories around Burning Man and my love for festivals and my love for dressing up, it just has given so many people permission to play and even just play with their, normal wardrobe. But yeah, again, it just creates deeper connection and talking points with people, and it's so freeing for me as well to not have her, hidden. So yeah, it's really fun to see what archetypes come out for people that they've, especially for women, we go through so many different stages in our lives, like, becoming a mother or going through work transitions, and parts of us get forgotten and left behind. And so it's really important to give all of those parts of us a voice and then a place to dress up.
Yes. And how many do you find that there's a certain number of archetypes that a person normally has, or is it quite varied?
Yeah, good question. It would generally would be between 4 and 8. So it just depends on what your areas of interest are in life that you're dressing up for. So it might be, the family, the work, it might be the stage performer, it might be the socialite, might be the person that goes to, like for me, festivals, and then the traveler. So yeah, and it's so freeing because people generally think, oh, I've got to be a certain version of me and share that with people. It's like the serious business person. That's what I have to put forward. But yeah, it really does create so much more connection and possibilities when we share all parts of us.
Absolutely. And so if we think of you, if we use you as an example, we know there's the Bedazzle Queen, which shows up maybe on stage and in festivals and or maybe shows up more often now that you know you're allowed to.
Yeah.
What do you have? what are some of the other archetypes, and how would that shift in terms of what you would choose to wear?
Yeah, so even though I'm not yet a mother, there is definitely an intuitive, conscious mother within me who is very connected to Mother Nature, very connected to animals. I'm very nurturing with my relationships, with my clients, and very tapped into my intuition and the needs of the collective. And so that part of me is very soft and grounded and loving and caring. And so that's not so much of the out there bedazzled, but it's more of the earthy colors and the cottons and the linens and yeah, more of that sort of subdued color palette and clothing. And
Okay,
then
that makes sense. So it's also the texture and material the clothing's made of, as well as the colors and
definitely, yeah.
yeah. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, just one of my other archetypes, which I think is quite strong, is more of this soulful luxe. It's like the Bali goddess within me. So I lived in Bali for a couple of years, and I am quite spiritual, and I go to retreats and a lot of different conscious events, and so there's that part of me that wears silk dresses and silk kimonos, which I design myself. And so that's a real, floaty, feminine vibe that is not sort of hippie, but it's very luxurious because of the colors, the silks, the embellishments, and all of the layers. I find when I adorn my body with a kimono, it's very it feels really prestigious and really like protected and regal and divine, feminine. So that's another one of my archetypes.
Beautiful. And so, yes, let's tap into the designing part. So, you're also a fashion designer, and do you ever design clothing for your clients?
Yeah, I love designing clothes for my clients. When we go through these intuitive processes and we see them in their creative genius and their highest timeline, when they're on stages, when they're performing, when they're really living their best life, often pieces will come through that we may not be able to source. And so that's where we get to co-create together. And especially people that are doing a TEDx talk or a performance, or maybe they're doing photo shoots for campaigns that are coming out. We really want to have unique pieces and unique looks that are, in full alignment with what they're doing and their message that they're sharing. So, yes, I love to design and have made bespoke outfits for people. And one of my offerings and favorite things to do is taking that vision and that highest timeline, or maybe it's their like vision for their keynote, and actually having it designed on to the garment, like on a kimono. And so when people watch my TEDx talk, they will see my kimono, and it actually took 1 month for a Balinese artisan to paint what is on there, which is called the Desert of Dreams. And I take people on that journey through a guided meditation to their Desert of Dreams. So there's a lot that's possible. I call it wearable art because we're taking the vision of theirs and transforming it into artwork that they can wear. And then that is a story in itself that supports then the stories that they're telling on the stage in the spotlight.
Oh, I love the blending of art. So it's the art on the outfit and costume, and then the performance art of actually being up on stage and speaking, all coming together in one.
Yeah.
Sounds incredible. So I know we're heading towards the end of our conversation here, sadly. Let's dream together for a moment. I wonder, is speaking in your future? Is that something that you will be doing moving forward?
Yeah, my my intention is always to be of my highest service and to trust this path. And I am very open to speaking opportunities. I would say what I love the most is one-on-one conversations or panel conversations. Because I've got a background in events and I love creating unique experiences, I just naturally love to collaborate on events and help get people on stages, help with sponsorship and all those sorts of things. So, yeah, if it's true for me to speak, I'm very, very open to those possibilities.
Well, why don't we create, because it sounds like you like curating the event. It's not necessarily just about the talk. So you can curate the event and I'll create the talk. So if you were to run your own event that maybe you were speaking at, maybe you had other speakers speaking at, what would be your dream event? This is called Beyond the Keynote because at Illuminated Story, we help speakers elevate their keynote to what I call a keynote performance or a keynote show. And I love that you're all about experience as well, because I think if we're going to deliver a message, why not deliver it in a way that just creates the most incredible experience for the audience while we're at it?
Yeah.
So do you have somewhere in the world that you would run your event, and what would happen at your event?
Yes, it's so interesting that you asked this question because I got the intuitive hit about a month and a half ago now, because my 40th birthday is coming up, and my dream's always been to have my friends at Burning Man, and it's quite, time consuming, logistically a lot. It costs a lot. And so what happened was I got this download to bring the essence of Burning Man to Australia and to my friends, and I'm calling it
Okay.
Burning Woman. And
Ah, nice.
and so I'm essentially taking the key things from my TEDx talk and the key things from Burning Man and co-creating a magical city with my friends where we all get a stage to share our gifts and to
Ooh.
perform. And
Mhm.
yeah, and I do as well. But of course, there's going to be a fashion parade. There's going to be a workshop where the Bedazzle Queen comes out and we get to get all sparkly. And I'm taking them through the last 4 decades that I've been around, and they get to come into my world. But also, we all get to revisit the 80s, the 90s, and I'll also do a screening of my TEDx talk. So we're doing like a drive-in cinema night where there's people are going to be performing, um, just little improv commercials, that you see at the start of a movie, and then other people are going to be doing ed talk. So it has to end in ed, but not be a TED talk. So it might be like a bread talk and someone just for 3 minutes talks about bread, and then it might be someone might do like a redhead talk and then the theme's about redheads. So I'm just handing it over to them to there'll be all these ed talks.
Oh, so funny. So it's like improv. So they get to come and they have to do an improvised talk on something that ends in ed.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And
Well,
we've
that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
it is, yeah, I'm really excited about it, and yeah, everyone's just stepping in and getting involved however they want, and we'll finish on the last night will be an untalent show. So it means everyone can share whatever is on their heart and they don't have to be talented. But of course, all of my friends are amazing and they're all generally performers and speakers anyway. But yeah, it's yeah, so I love dreaming like this, and the vision is also that this is going to become an annual event. It's just this year it will be just my close friends to activate the space.
Yeah. Ah, well, have the best time and happy birthday when it happens.
Thank you.
Before we finish, is there anything that you haven't shared with our audience today that you would like to share?
I think the main thing that's there is I find that a lot of people can get stopped with, I guess, getting clarity on things. Like, most people know what they want. Most people know what they don't want. But I find that people get stuck in trying to work out the whole plan, and so they don't actually take action. And so what I believe, what I practice, what I support people with is trusting themselves again, that they can take that next step, and that will then lead to more of those steps. So trusting that next intuitive step, even if there's fear and different feelings there, it's come to you for a reason. And those dreams that we have, those visions, they're there because they are a possibility in another reality. We just haven't become that person that lives that out yet. So all we need to know is the next step, even if it seems obscure, to trust in that and to trust ourselves.
Well, what a wonderful way to end the conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Carly. And for anyone who hasn't already been Googling in the background, go and look up Carly Faragher's TEDx talk.
Thanks so much, Carmen. It's been so much fun being on the show with you.
All right, here's where you're standing. You can close this episode, think that was fun, and go back to doing things the way you've always done them. Or you can decide you're done being the speaker, the leader that people politely applaud and immediately forget. If you want to create the kind of moments we talked about today, the theatrical, the unforgettable, the profitable, I've put together something that'll change how you think about the stage forever. It's called Beyond the Keynote, Creating Your Illuminated Story. No fluff, no theory, just methodology I use with elite speakers and leaders who are done playing small. Go to illuminatedstory.com/masterclass. And hey, if this episode hit you somewhere, share it, leave a review. It takes 30 seconds and helps more people discover that great speaking isn't magic. It's a game, and you can learn to win it. I'm Carmen Sederino. Don't just speak, illuminate. See you next week.